Okay, so as Cynthia said, just another quick welcome to Timothy Fong, who is a business development manager at Carbon Care and Carbon Care Asia. And to Mr. Chong, who some of you have met, whose CV and jobs are probably bigger number than the number of fingers I have. So Mr. Chong is going to give us a very short 30-second introduction. Timothy is also going to show us a PowerPoint presentation with just a few more details about how this car works. And I think we should just say we're very lucky and we're very happy to have two of the men that have been thinking a bit more about what these solutions might be. So, Mr. Chong, thank you very much.
Okay. Is that my... I can do without mic. Okay, well, thank you very much, Louise. Since she mentioned about my CV, it's on the Wikipedia, but it's not been updated for a while. So, Carbon Care Asia was founded in 2008, and I founded with a few friends who want to promote carbon management among business and organizations in Hong Kong. So we did three things: carbon auditing, reduction strategy, and carbon offsets using carbon credits. So I'm not going to go into details. So that and we were hooked up to the city car project late last year as a possible solution to transportations. We think that for the past centuries, private ownership of cars has been a trend, and probably the vision of William Mitchell in MIT was that in the next centuries, we probably are trying to give up ownership of cars as a new approach to urban mobilities. So these are my 30-second introduction. So I'm very lucky to be hooked up to this project, and it is still at the initial stage. So you can judge whether or not it's a viable solution to the problem we are facing in carbon emissions arising from transportations. So Tim, can you show the slides?
Sure. Okay, nice to see you all. My name is Timothy Fong, as introduced. You may probably call me Tim. And I'm very glad to be here to introduce you about this new concept. City car is actually the name of the car, but the concept's name is actually called mobility on demand. So it's like other things, like in the past you have heard about video on demand or whatever on demand. It's just a demand-based solution. I heard that some people point out in Hong Kong the major issue is some of the maybe personal preferences or greediness or whatsoever, that people like to own their car because it's some kind of face issue, it's very good feeling. But I'd rather say in the future, we are not going to have our own car, but we are going to share a very good car for the market. This is actually a kind of prototype. Does it look good? And it's actually quite interesting. Let me show you. Here are actually some of the concepts actually existing in the world around in some cities like Berlin, Barcelona, or something. They share bicycles. Is it pointer? Yeah, bicycles. They share scooters. And here is what we are going to propose is they are going to share the electric vehicle. People like to have their own vehicle because it looks sharp. But what about if we are sharing a sharp-looking vehicles at the same time? Why not, right? And also, if we are sharing, that solves one major issue. We don't have to have so many parking spaces because people are going to share it. This car is going to run on the street all the time, and they are not being put in idle situation because people are going to use it because it's in a sharing way. Some statistics in the past shows that for using one of these cars in the city, it can replace up to 50 automobiles in the market. So does it sounds really great? So actually, what I'm going to show you is these are some of the issues that we discovered in the past. One is about the last mile, first mile issue. Actually, the public transport in Hong Kong is quite good already. But there's still some shortcomings, like people say for those disabled people, for those not very convenient, for those old people, there's always an issue about the first mile, how they get from home to the public transport spot. And how about when they finish their journey, how can they go back from the public transport spot to their home? So these are always an issue about the first mile and last mile problem. And this mobility on demand concept is actually here to address these issues. We try to encourage people to use more public transport, but at the same time, they can have this solution ready so that if they think it takes a long time or difficult for them to go from their home to the public transport stations like the bus stations or the MTR station, they have this solution available. So they don't have to use their car, they don't have to worry about the parking, they don't have to worry about wasting their money or wasting the fuels because it's electrical car. The concept is, oops. Okay, here's the prototype, just to show you how smart it is and how space reserving it is. When compared to normal sedan cars, it's actually just half the space. And if it's parked, it can be folded. And it's just half of a smart car in the market now is running. And remember, it's an electric car. So when talking about the emission, when comparing with a petroleum-controlled car, it can greatly reduce the emission in Hong Kong. And also, at the same time, the air pollution issue. Here are some ideas that we try to develop it in the Hong Kong market. This is just a conceptual pictures. What if this car is run on the street at the Causeway Bay? Here are some parking space. You can see that it's very compact, so it doesn't have to occupy a big space for the parking. And because most of the time people are using it on the street. So for the parking space, demand is not talking about really a big car park. It's just a small portion of the street that you can allow 4 or 5 cars to park here. And most of the time people are using it because they have to go back from home or just to drive to the transport hotspot. And the car, when it runs on the street, although it's just a 2-seater, but look around when you look at those private vehicle users. Even if they have a big 7-seaters, there's only 2 persons sitting inside. But the weight and the space that they occupy, they used, is so huge and it's so unnecessary. So this car is really trying to address this issue in terms of space and in terms of their utilization. So this is one picture in Causeway Bay. Another one is we try to map it with the public transport spot. So here, we can have a space for this parking of this smart car and for the people to go on the public transport. This is a MTR station, and also to the bus stations. People can drive to that place and then take the public transport. So some of you mentioned that actually the buses are not being used so efficiently. And one of the issues we believe is because it's not easy for people to get from their home to the bus stop. Then why not they just go to own their own car, go to their car park and pick a cab, and just to travel for a short distance, and also need to worry about where to park their car. But this solution is just here to address this issue. They still can enjoy the driving experience. They can still drive on a very smart-looking, nice-looking car. But at the same time, they can also help to better utilize the public transport. Do you think it's a smart idea? What do you think? Do you think it would be a kind of solution for the future urban development of Hong Kong? Or what, in terms of personal experience or personal opinion, do you like this car? Do you feel proud if you ride on it?
About 62% of the carbon emission comes from building-related electricity supplies in Hong Kong, for example. That's true. And of which about 60% are based on coal-fire plants in Hong Kong. Okay, so if you put and then 18% coming from fuels burned by cars, so it's not small. Okay, it's not insignificant. If you put them all into electricity and then you change to renewable energy, that's the solutions. changing to, so we are talking about, we are not talking about something contradictory to each other. We are moving towards renewable energy in different ways, okay? Moving towards a common electricity grid, then still you need to replace the fossil fuel with wind, clean energy. Yeah, so I think we are not talking about one against the other. We are moving towards the same kind of solutions, but just that moving electricity car helps to replace fossil fuels. Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Chung. Can I just suggest as well that when we're doing innovation and when we're doing our projects, it's very easy to think ourselves that everything is very good and that we're so passionate and we're so convinced by an idea that it really is the best solution. And actually what we all need sometimes is a bit of critical analysis, a bit of critical questioning. And I know this is not the usual way we do it, but I am so confident, one, that the city car is a great project and I'm very, very fond of it. Two, that Mr. Chong and Timothy are so expert in their area and such big advocates of it that I think they can defend pretty much anything that you put at them. So may I suggest that in your questions, given that this is a safe space, may I suggest that in your questions you challenge them a bit? Because they're both nodding at me. They're both willing to be challenged, and I think this is where we're going to have a really good discussion about what this car could actually do for Hong Kong. So as we move forward in our questions, please bear that in mind, as well as it being a bit of a fact-finding mission. I think there's a microphone going around the audience. Okay, great. There's one here.
One question, because it's very light for the most of time, but the problem is that in the peak hour, like 9 a.m. we walk for the office worker. The 7 a.m. to the 9 a.m. is the most people want to use this thing, just like the public transport. But how many amount of car you can support for this large amount of demand, and how you manage who can use the car first or second by the booking, or if they booked the car, they got sick or some personal accident, they cannot use the car. What is the way to solve this? What known is difficult usage of the resources.
Mr. Chung is more experienced and more knowledgeable about this, but I try to answer it this way, okay? All in all, this is a kind of concept. It has not been actually put into place in a city level, in the reality, especially for Hong Kong, which is a very special characteristics due to its narrow street, due to its dense population, and also talking about the peak hour issue, it is everywhere, actually. What we are actually trying to do now at this moment is we also want to investigate whether or not there would be an optimal number of cars that we have to introduce to the city. And what would be the ideal setup of all the supporting facilities, like the charging station, like the parking areas, so on and so forth. And what would be the methods that people can use it. Then this is something that we really still need to investigate. So we are not really talking about implementing it tomorrow. There's still a process for us to understand better.
Okay, let me give you a more proactive answers. Number one, if you see in London, Paris, Amsterdam, there are already places where a whole district is supplied with bicycles. Okay, so you go and rent and then you park at the stations. The number, how many you need is just a technical issue. You can calculate. Okay, you do your survey study, then you demand, and then you can come to a number. Okay, so that's not an obstacle. That's a planning issue. Okay, now and it is estimated that shared vehicle. You go on the web, you can find zip car. Okay, they are using traditional vehicle. They are already doing it, renting it. okay? So you share your car. So they say one car replace, just now Tim said 50 privately owned vehicles. So whatever number you come to is a smaller than what currently are being owned, okay? So if China produce, do you know how many cars China produce a day? 10 million. 你可唔可以想象啊? Can you find so many places for these 10 million per day cars to be owned, parked, and used? So we are not blaming China, okay? We are not saying, oh, China shouldn't produce so many cars, because it was invented in the United States. So China just caught up with the United States. So if everybody start to reduce, okay, share, we have two parts in the city car concept, two parts. One is the mobility in demand. That's the main thing. That's the vehicle sharing. And city car is one vehicle to be shared. You can share bicycle, you can share scooters, you can share some other things, so long as it helps to reduce. We imagine if you ban all cars from Causeway Bay, okay? So you go there and you can use the car. Later on, Kai Tak, West Kowloon, okay? Then you save a lot of cars.
Can I add an additional answer? And so through the project that I run, we've worked very closely with the people in Bilbao who are working with MIT to develop the car. And although that our mission is not to look into this car, we're interested in the spreading and sharing of good ideas. And so we've had many conversations with them. And I think another answer to your point, which is being developed in this concept, is the idea of whether they can use the charging system to make sure the cars are distributed evenly around the city. And the charging would therefore change at different times of the day. So at the busy times, it would be more expensive to use cars that are always taken in one direction. And at different times of the day, the charging system would be such that cars get transferred back and get redistributed around the city. So there's a number of things that I think both our colleagues here and our colleagues in Bilbao and MIT are working on with this concept. But as these both say, there are many models of this all over the world. So it's interesting to look at how they use it too and take their best methods and use it for him. Who else would like to challenge? Great, there's a question here.
Personally, I think this is a superb idea. The car looks great. But then one of the hot topics in Hong Kong is the housing is relatively expensive compared to many other countries. And I think if you launch this car into action, might be increase the unemployment a lot because, for example, people might choose to use this car instead of not taking taxi. And how about the taxi drivers? So they're going to lose their job.
That is a great question. Thank you so much. And this is such a great question as well, considering we're thinking about the broader issues that go alongside this. So thank you. Mr. Chong?
Yeah, it is quite possible to use this car with a driver. So this car, the current model is a two-person car. It can be built into a four-person car. So there are people, elderly, disabled persons, they can, so it's quite possible to replace taxi with it. Secondly, this...
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, I think it's quite convenient. It also requires people to logistically move the vehicles around, so it will create a new kind of employment. It's also an assembly of the cars. So, the idea of building this car is that it's modular. So it builds parts, so you can assemble in Hong Kong, okay, instead of a whole car shipped in. So, and there is always a redeployment issues. People say, okay, nowadays you use 嗰啲八達通係咪？ So a lot of the octopus card, so it replaces a lot of people receiving money, counting money, and so on. But on the other hand, it goes into a whole idea of how we design jobs in society and lifestyle. So because we don't have a social security system that helps people, that supports people. So we in a way we force people to work in unreasonable amount of time and style. So we still have taxi driver working for 12 hours. In China, they have this system of a taxi driver working for 24 hours and then taking 1 day's leave. So they say, I will sleep while there is no passenger. So when you go in a taxi, oh, I wake up and then I drive you. Wow, so dangerous. Yeah. So in a way, this vehicle, this city car also brings into a challenge of our urban life. Yes, it saves space. Actually, it saves more parking space than what we currently are. 90% of the cars are parked, according to statistics, okay? And a lot of the car journeys is spent in finding a car park place. So when you drive a car, you spend probably 20%, 30% of your time in finding a place to park. And so the city car brings in a lot of new concepts. It is also equipped with internet, so you can sell information to a city car driver. So onto the city car, you know the restaurant and the menu of the day, the nearest library, and so on. So the information communication is also built into this system. It's centrally managed, so you can send out weather forecast, so and city-based announcements, cultural events. So these are what this city car concept brings into. It is a redesigning urban life. That is what it is. Okay.
I don't know about you all, but I'm feeling pretty convinced here. Any more? Okay, there's one here. There's a microphone coming at you.
Thank you. It's a very nice concept, but I'm also concerning one thing about the security safety problem as well as insurance problem. For example, smart cars are always less safety than the big cars running. If all the cars are smart cars, then it looks perfect for a city. But you have buses, big trunk of trunks and taxi and all sorts of cars, and also it's smaller, so it's quite dangerous somehow. And also, if you are not owning the car, a car owner, they will buy their insurance, and if they just such a high-tech and expensive car, they drove into accidents, what would happen and how much they have to bear the cost? Yeah, this is my concern.
Okay.
That's another great question.
Yeah, that's right. Two parts on the insurance, and there are already a very well-established management experience in other countries, in lots of countries, about car renting. So that covers it. So if you live in United States, Britain, Australia, you have all this experience about car renting. So I wouldn't go into that. On the safety issues, road safety is not about the bigger, the safer. We still have motorcycles on roads, so we are not banning them, while we have container buses. So I don't think that's an issue about the new cars. When you talk about security, I think of other issues. Some people feel that, oh, this car is attractive to theft. It's light, so say people can steal it. But because it's centrally managed, so it has a GPS system. It has it requires a charging, so it's not very much useful if you steal the car and it runs out of electricity. And so yeah, you are detected through the GPS and so on. And so I think these considerations have been taken care of in the planning stage. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Mr. Chung. I have time for 2 very quick questions and then 2 very quick answers from our colleagues here. Oh, Cynthia has a microphone here. There's one at the back there.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I was just thinking about in terms of if there, I know that in Amsterdam there's bicycles that are free to people can that are accessible to everyone. So in that sense, it sort of motivates people to exercise. But if we're doing this, are we sort of making people more relying on transportation in a sense that people aren't going to be as motivated to maybe walk and exercise, and that way it just makes everyone too caught up with life and
Can I give you my very quick answer to that as well? as a visitor to Hong Kong who does take taxis when it's very hot, I think in weather like this, I don't walk anywhere, and I'm sometimes on my own. So it will be fine for me then. Do you have another?
Yeah. No, my quick one is this is one choice. Okay, it's not not to be replacing all transportations choices. So if you need exercise, I suggest that you walk.
I think that's a very good point. This is just one option to replace some of the things, not everything.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. Quick questions, very quick. Yeah, do you expect like BMW or Toyota will collapse because of your plans? Like, what do you expect? Like, what are their response and like they have a lot of. Like,
and the second
employees.
one at the same time, please.
Second one is if this plan is implemented in Hong Kong, so half of the Hong Kong people have to learn how to use the car. So do you have the exact timeline to implement it? Because I don't know how to drive.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Well, first question, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if BMW or Toyota or another car company collapse. It's not the end of the world. GM almost collapsed, and is. But on the other hand, I would think that this concept will push them into this new concept. So actually, Toyota is already hooking up with internet company to build on. They are still moving on to sort of mobile information systems linked to cars. So that's not entirely new in city car. But I think the city car concept motivates them to think along that line. So the second question about learning to drive. Yes, I think it will create a new training opportunities. And it's easier to learn, I think, this one. Finally, because I think Louise is asking us to conclude.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, let you do
maybe
that.
if I don't cover it, please you do. Okay, so we only have about 2 minutes left. I'd just like to offer 2 things to everyone here, and then I'm going to ask Timothy and Mr. Chong about what their future plans are, as in like what's the process now? What do they need to do to get this car to you? And then we can go and have some lunch. But the first thing I'd just like to offer is we use this example of the city car quite often when we talk about social innovation. And it's not just an innovation, we think, because of what it's actually doing and the immediate effects it's having on the environment or the way people live in their city. But as Mr. Chong said, everything from the parking to the process of this car being made, the fact that it's made out of 7 parts that can be made anywhere and shipped to different parts of the world, and then it creates a whole new job market for different types of people to engage in making this car. It's much easier than traditional forms of car use. I think that's very interesting. I think it's very interesting, the idea of the charging model and the different ways that it makes you interact with your own incomes and your own communities makes it very interesting. And I think finally, something that Timothy and Mr. Chong haven't had time to talk about is the model of ownership around the car. It's a cooperative model. It comes from the Basque Country in the north of Spain, which has a very long history of cooperatives and different organizational models. So I think the reason that this is such a great example of a social innovation is because it covers all of these issues and it has such a big effect on things beyond its immediate impact. So as an idea of a process, of a way of working, it's a really interesting example that you could use. And I'm sure I'm about to offer up Timothy and Mr. Chong to answer further questions in the future about this. But I'm sure they'd be delighted to do that. And there's lots of things that you can read about this that we can provide as well, if you're interested in the concept. So the second thing I'd like to offer, just in terms of when we were talking about taxi drivers and different kinds of jobs that you made the point over here, is about social innovation more generally. So we can think of innovation in 2 ways, or as a scale. We can think of incrementally improving things, which is very valuable in many, many situations. What Tom's doing is incremental improvement, which we hope will have a massive impact. He's not created a new school. He's changing the way that the system works within a structure that he can't change. He doesn't have the power to change on his own yet. Or we can think of radical innovation and really changing the whole way systems work. And I think just when you're on your journey, it's useful to think of that spectrum. Incremental improvement into radical innovation. And radical innovation means changing the nature of jobs. Maybe there isn't jobs for taxi drivers anymore, but maybe they can do lots of other things. Final 2 questions for Mr. Chong and Timothy. One, what's the process from now on? And then I'm going to conclude by asking you the question that we asked Tom this morning and the question that we hope is driving all of these young people here. I want to know why you get up in the morning. I want to know what your passion is. But before that, please tell us about the process moving forward with the car. Who? Tim?
Well, actually, this is a very brilliant concept, but for every concept, we have to test it out. So everything needs to go through like a feasibility study, whether or not it's feasible to be launched in Hong Kong, how big should be the scale, in what area, and what kind of model, whether the public would accept that, how can we charge it, how can we make it flexible, what is the optimal number, different kind of things. So we're actually trying to put up a plan and then try to do a really full-scale analysis on the feasibility, whether or not this concept can be put in place in Hong Kong.
The city car concept was first conceived in MIT, MIT Media Lab. So you can find the information there. Now, number 2 is it's now being manufactured because MIT is not a factory. It's not interested in producing things. It's just interested in researching about it. So the Spanish social enterprise organization called Daniken, we form a consortium called Hiriko. So they are producing it. The prototype has just come out in June this year. So we are now getting, Carbon Care Asia is their partner. So we are now getting 5 cities around the world to launch a feasibility study. I think Berlin, San Francisco, Barcelona, and probably Amsterdam or London. They are thinking about it. closely. So Hong Kong, we have applied funding from government to study it, but we are waiting for government to tell us whether they will give us the funding to do it. I'm not entirely optimistic because I hear they are very conservative. This thing is just too new. Finally, I want.
Anything that these people can do to help?
Okay, maybe you can write to the government and say, do you like it? Okay, now for me, before I answer, well, when Luis asked me the question, what motivates me to wake up? When I wake up, I feel a lot of new things is going to be happening today. A lot of the ideas. I thought of some ideas in the before I sleep. When I wake up, I feel that okay, let me do something to move it a little bit forward. The city car, we are not here to sell you the idea of the city car as a product. This is an innovation training. We are demonstrating to you how people innovate things. So we just use this as an example. When the MIT guys, when you meet them, they are not constrained by anything that's happening now. They are thinking about what is best, okay? What can be done in 10 years, 20 years' time. So William Mitchell, MIT, CHELL, you can find, just died last year, he conceived this idea. He has written a book called Reinventing Urban Life. Okay, so city car and the mobility on demand is just one concept. They want to replace all private cars and how we live in the city. Okay, you can put on a lot of things there. When I talked to them, I said, okay, I cannot drive this car. They said, no, we are inventing a car without that can move independently. You can actually use your mobile phone to call in a car. That means I can go up. As a blind person, I can tell the car where I want to go, okay? I want to meet my wife, so it will go there. And so you have seen this on a James Bond film, right? And they are doing it. They are doing it. He said, okay, they are thinking about a car that can fly, okay? Because of the traffic jam, so there's two wings, so we can move the two wings and then leave the queue, fly 100 meters and leave the flyover, and then to find another route. So you can. So we want you to leave to widen your imagination, to not constrain your possibilities. Okay, your minds, and think about these things.
So we know that Mr. Chong wakes up and he feels a bit like James Bond.
Well, I'm very, very simple. I used to be a very commercial person from a commercial background. But one day when I wake up, I find frustrated because I'm not contributing to the society at all. I'm even trying to damage it because I work from kind of advertising or market research, telling my clients how to sell more, waste more, and people buy more. So now I feel much better because I'm pushing some revolutions now because I'm telling people the seriousness of climate change and what they can do is to reduce their carbon emission. And I'm not doing it in a general public area because there are also NGOs doing that. But what I'm now trying to push is the business sector, the commercial sector, they bear certain level of responsibility. And they can do business, but in a more socially responsible way. And this is my mission to tell them how they can do this.
Thank you so much, Timothy. Before we hand over to Cynthia with the instructions, please can we just give Mr. Chong and Timothy a massive round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Okay, Cynthia.
So So I'm conscious that I'm standing between you and food, and I never want to be the person that's doing that. But just before we go and have lunch, I just want to say Mr. Chong's call to action to think about what's possible, to think about opportunities. That's really what we want you to think about in this part of the program and over lunch. It's easy sometimes to be critical and think about the holes in an idea. But we want to encourage you to think about what a really strong idea might be, what a really strong theory of change might be, but also to give yourself the freedom to think of ideas that might sound stupid at first, like a car that could fly, but might actually be something that is transformative and change people's lives. So whether it's based on the exercises you did then, thinking about how a car like this could tackle the problems of parking, as well as the fact that people want something that is desirable and interesting in their lives to get around. Whatever it is, whether it's an idea that you're already working on or something that you think about in a conversation over lunch, if you have any ideas over your lunch break, we encourage you to put them up on our ideas wall. There are bubble-shaped pieces of paper over there for you to sketch out your ideas on, and post-it notes for you to contribute to other people's ideas. So please, over lunch, be thinking about your ideas and any that you've come with before that you want to share with other people. And after lunch, we'll do a piece of thinking about how to make choices once we have some of those ideas.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Mr. Chong has a 30-second, I've been promised, point that is going to change all of your lives before you eat.
Sorry, I'm not. I'm going to miss lunch. I'm going to work with Disney with some children about environmental issues again. The 30-second thing is about an issue that one of you raised, very important, about job replacement. When I was studying in London in the mid-80s, I studied information analysis. This issue was there because of the incoming information age. So people were worried about this union in Britain was worried about de-skilling. It's about all Murdoch, replacing the pre-union jobs and so on. Now, over the past 30 years, we know the issue, but information technology has created more employment opportunities, new kind of employment than the displaced existing ones. So in innovation, we should not be afraid of change. However, it does not mean that the benefits of innovation can be fairly shared. Okay, I am a social person. I am aware of equity issues. And it's another innovation challenge. How do we make the benefits of economic, technological innovations equally available to people in need? Okay, we don't want taxi driver to drive for 12 hours. But do we want them to be locked up in cage home because of lack of income? Can we generate some more decent jobs, lifestyle, volunteer work for people? Yeah, that's the challenge for social innovators. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a challenge for you too. We'll see you back here at 2:30. Lunch is served in the room where we had coffee.
And a message from Ada is to please take your chairs back to your table before we head out.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. John.